So today's another maintenance day. Today we're going to be fitting this solar panel, the rail mounts, and also we've got this. This is the Victron solar controller, and this is the one that allows you to use your phone, you can see on the back there, and connect it with Bluetooth and then see what your solar panel is doing. We've also got all the cables. We've got these interesting little things which are gel packs, which you use to put your connectors in to make it waterproof. So I've never used those before. The solar panel, that's a Renogy RNG 100 DSS. And what that is 100 watts. Normally you would fit 2 for this size of boat, but I only need this to really top up the batteries, and I've left myself the option to be able to add a second one later on should we need to. So this is the reason why I've just gone with the one for now, and then we'll see what happens as we use it. I've no doubt that will fit the second one, but for now, you know, the controller that will easily handle 2 100 watt panels, so it's literally just a case of fitting that panel when we're ready. Now, Kingfisher has had a solar panel installation before, and that solar panel installation was quite a few years ago. In fact, I think it was about 10 or 12 years ago. You should be able to see the picture here of what it looked like. It was basically 2 panels mounted on the back with the poles, but I don't like that configuration, which is why I've gone to use the rail mounts. Now the rail mounts are these NOAA rail mounts, and what they look like is you have this aluminium fitting. You've got this which actually goes onto the mount, onto the rail. The mount slides in like that, and then you adjust. You can tilt it. So if you imagine the panel is sat on here, well, bolted on here, because I also need to trim this down, and then you can loosen this, which allows you to angle the panels for however you want it. So yeah, I wanted that system because minimal amount of fuss, minimal amount of having to do some homebrew solution, and you know, these NOAA rail mounts, they seem pretty sturdy, so they're quite impressive. So all of the components that I've used for this installation I'll put in the description below, and you can see then what I've ordered and what's been used in order to fit this into Kingfisher. So a key part of this installation is where I'm going to run all the cables. Because of the previous installation of solar panels, I think there's some routes that I can use in order to thread my cabling through, and I'm going to basically mount the new controller into where the old controller is. So let me show you what that looks like. So I've removed all the bedding, and this is now the access to the batteries. I'll show you that. So you can see the house batteries and the starter batteries, but also over here, what you can see is the old solar controller. I was thinking of reusing this, but it's so old, and I'd rather have the Bluetooth functionality so we can then, you know, monitor what's really happening with those solar panels. So that's what I've got to pull out. As you can also see, some of the wiring in here, man, I'm gonna have to do some work on sorting this out, because some of it isn't to the best standard. So one of my main jobs to do and another maintenance day is to basically tidy up what's going on with the wiring. Also, I thought I'd show what it looks like for where the steering gear is, and also where I've got my heater as well. May not be interesting to most people, but if you're looking for a Moody 38, I think this would help. See what's there. So, this. Here we go. So that's the steering quadrant. This here is the Erbisbacher heater. So that's what that is. And here is the steering gear for the autopilot. So this ram actually moves this thing here, which effectively is what steers the rudder. So that's what's controlling all of that. And that's all connected down to here. These blue cables that you can see, they're all connected to the steering quadrant, which that runs through into the engine area, and from there that goes up to the wheel. So when you steer the wheel is effectively pulling these cables from one side to the other, which steers the rudder. That's what it looks like inside. I'll show you where I'm going to mount this thing outside. It helps, you know, give a bit of an idea as to how that panel's going to work. I've had to empty everything out the locker. As you can see, as usual with any cockpit locker, there is just lots of stuff. Stuff which I think we should be getting rid of, but sometimes it's like with rope. When do you get rid of rope? It's just, you never know. Anyway, this is what the cockpit locker looks like empty. So, fair bit of space down there. But the solar panel I'm going to mount here. So the rail fittings will go on here. I'm going to move this further along and then run the cabling so it goes through here, follows it, that conduit through there into the engine area. So that should, he says, be pretty straightforward. I did have some difficulty fitting the NOAA rails onto the solar panel and then mounting the panel onto the boat rail. I couldn't film this as I had my hands full trying to mount the solar panel onto Kingfisher's rail. So here are my 3 tips for mounting the NOAA rails to the solar panel and then mounting the panel onto the boat rail. Tip number 1, when drilling holes in the panel to mount the rails, be careful of the drill bit going through the metal too quickly. This happened to me and I scratched the panel cell. It's why I needed to test that I didn't damage the panel. Tip number 2, what you can't see and don't realize until you fit the rail is that the NOAA clamp splits into 2 when tightening the clamp bolts. This happens if it's not aligned properly. Which leads me to tip number 3. The NOAA clamps are only properly secure when you tighten the lower bolts of the clamp into position onto the solar panel rail. Only then can you use the upper wheel bolt to secure the clamp to your boat rail. As you can see behind me, we now have the solar panel mounted. It took a long time to do. A lot of problems putting that in, a lot of issues with regards to putting the cabling through and just, yeah, getting those rails on there was really difficult to do. But what we'll do now, let's test it, make sure that I've not damaged the solar panel by putting the rails on and just by manhandling it. So let's try that out. As you can see, what we've got here, we've got the cables that I've just run down here through to where the engine area was, which you saw before. This is basically what's connecting the panel. I need to connect these to these, but let's just test the output and check that that panel's working. One of the things that the panel does do is flip it up, and that's the position it's going to be in when we're looking to cruise or whatever. Pretty pleased with that. Difficult, like I said, to put that on with those NOAA rails, but still a better approach than just doing my own in that respect. So let's take a look at what those readings are. Set this to DC, set it to volts. The specs say it should be about 23, 24 volts that should come through here. So let's measure that. So hopefully guys, you can see that. As you can see, that panel is working perfectly well. It's doing exactly what it should be doing. This is the way we're sailing. Ran out of time, so I'm not going to be able to finish the job today. So I'm going to do a part 2 video, which is going to basically show that connection, what that software looks like, and just show it all connected up and working together. So yeah, join me for part 2. All right, thanks. So Kobe, you're going to help me put all this stuff back in the locker. What's that? You going to help? Kill me, Kobe. You know you want to help. Yeah, you can help me. Oh, you're the good boy. You're going to help me put all this back in. I can't believe so much came out of that locker. Yeah, I know. There's too much stuff. Welcome to part 2. So what I'm going to do now is secure the panel. It needs to be tightened up a little bit more, and then I'm going to fit this. This is the solar controller, and hopefully it's all going to work. I need to basically secure this a little bit more, because as though this twists and it holds it in place, this is actually a clamp, and I don't quite trust that. So I can't see why it would fail, but I'm still a little bit cautious. I'm also going to move the panel up a bit, because when I move the panel, whilst it's okay there, I think it just needs to come over this way just a little bit more and just center it a bit. In addition, I'm also going to put this rail cleat on, and I'm going to secure this even more by having some rope attached to either here or around here, so that when we pull this and we put it in this position, we can then tie the rope off and just basically secure it around that cleat. So that would actually make it a little bit more secure again when we're underway. Next, I'm going to snip the ends of these and then connect those to these cables here, which then run down into where the engine area is, where the batteries are. This is the Wago connector. I'm going to connect this on like so. Simply clip that down, wires in. That's it. Really, really simple. So do the same thing with the cable running down to the battery area. So clip that down. That's it. Job done. So now what we do, like what we've done here, we use something called a gel box. This is a gel box. What it is, it's quite simply, you can't really see it too clearly, but this is just full of a really sticky gel. So when you close it, it's completely waterproof.
Don't put that on yet.
What?
I think you should test it.
You think I should test it?
Yeah, you should have done that with the other one.
Well, I think that I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I think you're right. I should be testing this before
You're going rogue.
Before I do it, but you know what? I'm just going to go for it.
This is a disaster waiting to happen.
No, there it is. It's in the gel.
You know what?
It's in the gel. I know you're there. You warned me, and oh, there it is.
Let's hope for your sake this works first time.
Of course, it's going to work first time. There we go. I'm also going to wrap this with self-amalgamating tape, and then I'm going to zip tie both of these to the back of this, so there's minimal movement, and when it swings up and down, it's nice and secure. Bear in mind what Emma was saying, that I should test this before I put the gel box on. Now back in the battery area, so what I'm doing, I'm going to test it and check that the connections do work before I wire it up to everything else. And here we go. Yes, look at that, it's all working properly. All good. But now we just need to take out the old, fit in the new. So the unit's unboxed, as you can see. Pretty solid unit, pretty good, and actually it's quite simple from an installation point of view. As you can see, you've got terminals for the battery, terminals to the panel, and the load function is if you want to run something like a light switch or something like that, from what it says in the manual, from what I can read. But also, just a note, pet hate mini rant time manuals. This is what comes with it. Great. Look at the size of the text. Who can read this? Who can read this size of text? It is just way too small for normal eyes to be able to read. So, guys, vendors out there, please increase the font size. I mean, come on. Anyway, run over. So there it is, the old one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the existing battery cabling that's there. I'm going to trace where that goes to and simply transfer that to the new unit, and then wire up the new panel and everything else to this. But it looks like there's a whole nest of stuff associated with the original solar panels, which I'm just going to have to sort through now. Okay, so it is now all being connected up. Points to note was that I connected up the battery leads first, then I connected up the solar panels. Now, when it was just the batteries only with no solar panel, that blue light was blinking. Now the solar panels are on, that is a solid blue light. So I'm assuming that means that we've got, power coming through from the panel. So what I think I'm going to do is check using the Bluetooth function in this. This is what the Victron Connect application looks like. You need to use this application in order to connect to the controller charger and add the device, so you're able to look at results and see what's going on with your solar panel. So as you can see, it's found the device and it's now connecting to it. What it will then ask for is the pin number, and the default is 6 zeros. And once you enter that in, it'll allow you to then basically continue with the setup. So first thing it does, as soon as it's basically connected, it'll ask you to do an update to the firmware, which you need to do in order to get the best out of it. So you need to download the latest versions of all firmware in order for the controller to work. So I did that via my mobile phone, and for information, my mobile phone is an Apple iPhone, but it also works with Android. By the way, it's not that fast, so it depends on your mobile connection. So once you've done the first download, it will ask you to download again yet another firmware update. And this allows you to do the connection, and as you can see, it's already working there. So we just wait to download the next firmware update. And again, this is something that takes a little bit of time, but it's not too long. It's just your standard update process that you've seen before many times with different applications. So what I was impressed with was how quickly this was done, how cleanly it was done, and how really effective it was. And so as you can see there, I've selected the device and you've actually got a signal strength. So this is what you see. At the moment, the panel was in the down position. You need to basically confirm that you want to use that pin, or you can change it if you want. I've left mine at the default for 6 zeros, but my panel was in the down position. It was on a cloudy day, so only 10 watts of power energy was coming through. So not that much. But you can see what the battery charge is for the banks, and what you're doing if you're using that load functionality of it as well. You've also got the history tab, which will show you, what the history of the panel has been and what's been going on with the loads. And you've also got the trends tab as well. So that also shows you information about, again, what that panel's been doing. Overall, really good app, gives you everything you need to know about your solar panels. So there it is, the new unit all installed and working. Let's see what outside looks like. And here it is, the finished product. As you can see, it's now tied up all of the wires here, so it goes down below, mounted this cleat, and we've got this on to basically secure it. So when we turn it, and it's over like so, it's pretty solid, but what we can do now is literally just tie that off onto that. So, and that's not moving. Pretty happy with how that looks.